Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Queer Careers video podcast, where we put a spotlight on LGBTQIA talent and inspire people to reach their career and development goals. Thank you for watching or listening. I am Marie-Charlotte Coury, Development Chair for Pride Inclusion Business Group, an employee resource at Expedia. My pronouns are she, her. I am a white woman with green eyes and brown hair. I wear big aviator-shaped glasses, a printed t-shirt, and a lime jacket today. The person I will be interviewing today is very special for me, as we have been working together on projects focused on creating positive change. And now he is dedicated 100% of his work time to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives. This person is Francisco Gallego, Inclusion and Diversity Manager. We both have a background with a black and white picture of lots of different people marching on the street and pride written in one of the corners. In another corner sits the Queer Careers logo. And in the third corner, there is a little cozy workstation with some rainbow colored elements. So now over to you, Francisco, if you can introduce yourself.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be today with you, Marie-Charlotte. Hi, everyone. My name is Francisco. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a white male, gay male, wearing a printed shirt similar to a cowboy with a little pin that says blast off like a rocket. And I'm also wearing transparent glasses today. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for inviting me for this conversation, Marie-Charlotte.
I know it's going to be very, very instructive, and I'm going to learn so much from you. So very happy to have you. So we can go to the first question, which would be describe your role and how do you organize your week?
My current role, I am on a gig with the Inclusion and Diversity team as an Inclusion and Diversity Manager. And the nature of this job is global, which means that a normal day to me would start early in the morning with APAC. Everything that has to do with that super region I have to solve in the early morning. Normally, for example, tomorrow I have my Inclusion Business Group, which is our ERGs at Expedia Group, our employee resource groups. We have our APAC call, which I drive in the morning, early in the morning. So I might start at 6:30, 7 a.m. with that call. And normally after solving APAC, EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa wakes up, and then I look after anything that might be happening there with our inclusion business groups. But the hectic part of the day starts around noon, 1 p.m. in Central European time. That's when the East Coast wakes up, and therefore a ton of emails start like hitting my inbox. And obviously, the US is a big country and North America is a big region for us in terms of population of employees, but also our largest IBGs are there. So therefore, a lot of work comes from the US normally. Also, I partner with our inclusion and diversity team, which around 85% of them are based in the US. That means that a lot of that communication and Slacks also start later in the day.
Yeah, because we did not specify, but what you are currently focusing on, like main focus inside the inclusion and diversity team, is supporting our inclusion business groups. As you said, they are the employee resource groups, right?
Exactly, yes.
So can you tell us, a little bit more about what they do and how you support them?
Of course. I can tell you also more about how I came to this role and why I'm right now focusing on the inclusion business groups at EG. I started getting involved with inclusion business groups when I started my career at Expedia over 5 years ago. I came to Madrid and I noticed that even if it was a really friendly environment for diverse talent, there was no dedicated space for my community, the LGBTQIA community. So I thought, why not kick off a chapter? And I talked to different colleagues and I found, which I think it's important, support on another colleague who agreed, and together we co-founded the chapter in Madrid. And that really was the beginning of my career in inclusion and diversity, because I started to realize that back in the day, 5 years ago, initiatives to raise awareness, to foster inclusion in the office were really necessary, but also how those metrics that we were driving were benefiting the business and the bottom line, because those people were staying with us, the retention rates were really high, but also we were creating the kind of culture where everybody wanted to work and be at. And that kind of unique sauce was made thanks to our inclusion business groups, not just Pride for the LGBTQ community, but also WELL for the women that we have around us, BEAM for our Black employees, ACE for our Asian community, AIM for our ability inclusion movement. There were a lot of opportunities for us to contribute and create that kind of special culture that we have at AG. And that's how I started. From a local chapter, from getting together on awareness sessions, going out, bowling night, just creating and building community, which is, I think it's a very important aspect of employee resource groups. From being the chapter lead, then I moved on to a more global scope on the global board, as I was appointed Global Growth Chair. And my role then was, as in today's role that I mentioned, it's global. I was looking at pockets of population where we had an opportunity to start a new chapter, to raise awareness. And I specifically noticed that APAC was a region that had a ton of opportunity because we didn't really have the opportunity yet to start new chapters. So talking to leadership in those regions, I was trying to understand and make a diagnosis of how was the reality for that region and what could be implemented. That's how we started chapters in Tokyo, in India, all over APAC, but also in other regions that were not having representation, like we didn't have a chapter in Miami. So we started one, or we didn't have a chapter, or it had died out, the chapter in Paris, and we revamped it. So in a way, I was looking after that global expansion of our ERG to make it more numerous and create those sense of belonging across the world. And then we held elections, our first global elections, and that's how I got elected global president in 2021. I've been their president for the community, for the Inclusion Business Group Pride during a year. And during that time, we've implemented different initiatives that have been very beneficial. For example, we increased our net promoter score of the feeling of belonging for our community by 6 points during my time there, or we actually created the benefit for any person who identifies as trans in the company to actually get access to money and to transition while they are in their jobs, because we really want to look after them, and not just in a certain region, but across the globe. And that's another of the highlights that our team, together with you, Marie-Charlotte, not just me, but obviously this is a work team and a board team, we managed to accomplish. I hope that helps people get to know also who I am and how I got today to the position in the inclusion and diversity team full time.
It's extremely relevant, and it's also a huge career steps that you explain, and I think it's very significant of how throwing yourself at a project that passionates you can also support your career, because you develop so many skills. Like as growth chair, as president, I know for a fact, having collaborated with you, that you developed so many skills that are now making you more relevant in your current role, which ties perfectly with the next question. And that would be, what do you know now that you wish you would have known before starting in this position, or in your career in general?
I believe that something important to recognize is that once you identify something that you're passionate about and that you really know that you can contribute or you want to contribute in that field, trust your gut feeling, heads down into advancing your knowledge in that field. For example, I took a course on inclusion and diversity by Cornell University to get myself, ready for what's next, the next step in my career. But at the time, I was not ready, and I've been gaining all those skills throughout the years. I believe one of the things is that I wish I knew then is, don't be impatient. Trust your journey. You will find it, you will get there. And sometimes we are so focused on tomorrow, what's next in our journey, in our career, in our life, that we stop enjoying today and the present. So being mindful of the opportunity, the immense privilege we have today in our current jobs, learning that skill that you might find boring maybe because it's repetitive, but that muscle will come in handy in your next step. So there's always opportunities in whatever role you're at. You just need to change the perspective and value that. I think that I would love to have known 5 years ago when I started, for example, at EG.
It makes total sense. What you're saying about enjoying the journey and not focusing straight away on maybe a promotion or a change, because things will come and sometimes doors may not open when you expect them. And sometimes other doors that you were not expecting will open just because you took the journey, just because you're focusing on the moment and being really good at what you're currently doing. Which brings us to the next question, which is, what helped you get into this particular job and be successful in it?
I think this question is resolved with and answered with what I explained before, but I will just give it more context, because obviously it's not an easy path to where I am today. There has been a lot of struggle and a lot of fighting for, finding my place, struggling with myself to find my place, because as much as I thrilled or I was excited to be part of a big team in account management to get at Expedia, I knew that somewhere inside me, I wanted to pivot my career. I wanted something different. And I didn't really know when I started day one at EG that it was this. This developed with time and getting to know myself better as well. It's also an introspective journey, because once you know what you're passionate about, being passionate about a topic doesn't necessarily equip you to be ready to work in that space. There are certain steps you need to take. And even if you're really passionate about a topic, you need to detach yourself from that if you want to really be rational and think through any problem with more calm and a more rational perspective. It's not just, everything is not passion. Passion is a very important element that keeps you going and that makes me wake up in the morning thrilled to look at my inbox and how can I help today? How can I serve my organization, my people? That is what really keeps me going. But how did I get here? To be honest, there was no path. The first chief diversity officer we had at the company, I had a one-on-one with her. I asked time with her just to sit down and understand, even if the team at the time was solely based in the US, I wanted to contribute from Madrid, right? I wanted to be part of this amazing journey for IND at Expedia. So I reached out to her, I threw myself out there, and I offered, hey, I want to contribute, I want to help. What projects can I take? So I started being an ally skills facilitator, and I started a little project during the pandemic for Allies Beyond Borders, because I thought at the time we were isolated, many of us. I live in a small apartment in the center of Madrid. I really couldn't get out of my apartment, and I was thinking, I need allies. And if I need them, there might be other people who also would appreciate having someone who you can just get a coffee with and who can support you in this journey. So that's how I founded Allies Beyond Borders. And with these initiatives, I really pitched my position to, at the time, Chief Diversity Officer, and offered to be at the beginning offering 10% of my time, later next quarter, 20%. And in a way, I created a role for me where there was none. So I think taking initiative and ownership on your career is vital if you want to get there. And you will determine what there means to you. The most important is that the rules are there, but don't wait for it to open. If I had waited to for an opportunity to pop up on my inbox on, oh, they were looking for an inclusion and diversity manager, without all this previous work, it wouldn't have been me. So I think this is how I got here, through perseverance. I didn't get it first, neither a second time, but then eventually I landed in this job.
Yeah, no, it's very useful. And I think like it can inspire many of us because consistency and perseverance and creating opportunities for yourself is a big part of, I kind of call it getting off the survival mode and just starting to create a path, a career path that is really, really adapted to your person. And as you said, the first step is just questioning yourself on what am I good at? What do I like? And what the company is going to be prepared to offer me a role that I can put those things into my work for. So it's not easy. It's something that you have to put some time in figuring out. And I was stating the survival mode because most of us, I feel, just get into roles by necessity. Like, oh, I feel this is an awesome company, so I'm just going to get a foot in the door and then I'm going to figure out. But sometimes there is a lot of time between getting a foot in the door and you like the first position and you try to prove yourself and get good at the job and everything. And then you can have the time to think about, is it really the position for me here? Or is it something more that I can do and I can contribute more because I'm better at it? So I think you explain very well the process that you went through to get to this result and combine everything for your person. So thank you for that. It was very interesting. So the next question would be, what are the resources that helped you evolve in your career? So queer community, IBGs, LGBT plus job boards, networks, book, podcasts, e-learnings, mentoring people, anything that comes to mind. You already gave a lot of information about how you leverage the IBGs, Inclusion Business Groups, which are the internal employee resource group at Expedia, but I'm sure you have more to tell us.
Sure. I think that it's not just, I found my community with the Pride community at the time, obviously, and we supported each other, helped each other throughout our careers as well, right? If one of my friends at Pride was having an interview and I could just help them prepare for that interview, I would be there. We would be there for each other. And I think that's a great feeling of community that we are building inside our company and with our inclusion business groups. But other than that, I really looked for mentors, those who were doing what I aspired to become. I looked up to them and I reached out to them asking for advice. Among others, Kristen, who is today not with us at EG anymore, but she's still in the IND space. And she has helped me as well in understanding that it was not just passion. How could I get under my belt all the needed equipment to actually succeed in this role and what it took, because it's a really emotionally heavy job. When you are in the inclusion and diversity space, you need to face a lot of things that you need to be psychologically prepared as well to digest and resist in a way that you are there to serve others and to support others without forgetting that you are human as well and you have your needs and your mental well-being must be prioritized. Because if you are not okay, it's hard to be a resource to others. So the first thing is to look after what keeps you in balance and keeps you happy and performing satisfied, and not just at work, I mean in life. Work is an essential part of, we spend many hours at work, but this is another part of something bigger called life. And so also my job does not define who I am as a person. I work my hours, even more when necessary and when I want to give this to the company, but outside work, I go to theater and I do sports in the morning and I travel a lot as much as I can. And I look after, and if I see a dog and I can foster a dog, I look after animals, I would do that. And, all of those aspects. And my family is also really important, right? So I look after all those pillars to be well. And this is something that I thank Kristen for, because she gave me also that perspective on, even if this is something you're passionate about, consider it a job. And what that means is that it cannot, eat all those other aspects of your own life. Otherwise, you won't be a good professional in the end. So finding that balance. And then finally, my manager, Luisa, she's been incredible in supporting me and also giving me the flexibility, because it's important to find in a manager someone who believes in you and understands that she's going to be there, and whatever makes me happy and successful, she's going to cheer for me and be root for me. Instead of just looking at her own field, she could have said, you stay with me in market management because you are a top performer and you're doing really well and you are contributing to the team. But hey, no, I want you to really flourish, succeed. So go out there and explore and grow. And I think that's really important in any manager, in any company.
Now, I think you pointed out something that is extremely important, and it's going to be something that is going to determine maybe a lot of your career is mentors, people that you can learn from and just have things that you haven't went through yet, and you haven't gone through, and they've been there already, and they can give you tips so that it's easier for you to kind of forge your path. And then the second point that you mentioned is if your leader supports you, which is extremely, extremely important, because you feel authorized in a way to explore, to observe, and just to open new horizons. So it's very powerful, and it speaks highly of a leader when they are focused both, they are able to focus on the performance, which is obviously a huge responsibility, and we understand like we have to have this balance, but they are also considering the very long term for this person. So they feel like they are able to empower in today's performance, but also in your future and for your career development and your future performance. So I think it's very powerful and important in career growth, definitely. And so next question would be, and it's a very important and interesting question, I like it a lot. Could you share the biggest learning you had from an obstacle or a failure?
There are so many failures in my career. Like, it would take us an hour to go over all of them, obviously. Failures are opportunities, are learning lessons, growth. The toughest times have been the most interesting and the most fruitful in terms of my own self-knowledge and introspection on why is this happening to me? What can I learn from it? So when an example, I can give you several. Internally, I've applied to be part of the IND team before, and I got rejected. Well, we get rejected in many situations throughout our career, and that's fine. I take it as, okay, give me the feedback to understand what didn't go well this time. Even if I made it to the last round, you ended up getting someone else. It's not my turn. It's not my time. I can still persevere. I can still learn from this. So for me, a failure is always a synonym of opportunity, a learning lesson. Another one is, prior to Expedia, in my former job, I used to live in New York City, and I was working in a diplomatic mission out promoting Spain as a tourist destination. At the time, there was an opportunity for me to actually hop on a round the world regatta, that it's the ocean race, a great opportunity that I have already done. And there was an opportunity for me to do it again. And at the time, I cried so much when I heard, you can see me under the Empire State crying, like, why am I so miserable? I'm not good enough. They didn't get me for this time. And it was a blessing, because the fact that they didn't get me into the race at the time gave me then the opportunity to start at Expedia, which is a company that has given me so many opportunities. Life has amazing things in store for you. So you need to trust the path, because they're ready, they're waiting. And for every failure, there is another chance for you to stand up stronger, and that's a better professional if you are having that growth mindset, an open mindset, which is important. You can play the victim and say this is terrible, or you can say, well, in this, there's a learning opportunity for me. And I try always to take the second and the latter option.
Yeah, it makes me think about a very good neurosurgeon, like a kind of philosopher that I love. And he says, pain is a normal reaction, but suffering is a choice. Like once you are hit by the first reaction of disappointment, or as you said, like sadness, then you can just choose to linger in that state, as you said, and just position as a victim, or you can say, okay, this is a sign that something else is going to come, and just go for the path of learning from it, creating different opportunities, persevering in your path, just forging something. And I think this is what makes the difference. And this is an answer to that question about the obstacle or failure. Nobody sees the failure, that nobody of the people that I interviewed so far, nobody sees the failure as something negative. They all see the positive in it, like focusing on the opportunity it creates, and this just the change of path that it may, that it may create. For you, it was entering Expedia. So yeah, it's an amazing example. Thank you for sharing that. And now we're going to get to an even more interesting question, which is, how has your identity influenced your career and vice versa?
Thank you for this one. To be honest, I don't want to sound the kind of, oh, I'm super positive, life is all roses and flowers and pink and beautiful. I mean, life is beautiful, don't get me wrong, with all the toughness, with all the difficulties that we face. That's also part of life. And I embrace it. I embrace the dirt as well as I embrace beauty, because I think it's all part of life. We cannot just have the positive and the beautiful without the valleys, without the down moments. So it's both that I love. The downs that make me put in perspective what's happening and appreciate the moment, and then the highs. So that being said, which I think it's important, because otherwise, if you just caught the answer to the previous question, you might think, oh, that's because, you know, he's always had it that easy. And this answers to this question that I'm coming now. Luck is huge in terms of, I've had privilege throughout my life in many ways. Whereas other individuals that I meet, that I talk to, they come from different walks of life that are much more challenging than mine. And in that way, makes me understand what a privileged individual I am. But that empowers me to say, hey, let's put that privilege to serve. How can I serve others? Because I've had it easier in some ways, maybe not in others, because we all had our own path and we've all had our struggles. But I think, answering to your question, luck is more important than the amount of effort that you want to put, because I see a ton of incredible, talented individuals that haven't had the chance yet, simply because they might be born into a situation where they are less privileged. They have less access to studies, to resources, to mentors, to, in the end, the more resources, and not just in terms of economical resources, but also the more opportunities you have to knock on that door, open that window. The more you know, the more you are exposed to, the easier it potentially could be for you. That being said, I've never asked anyone to, hey, give me a job in terms of, you know, make it easy for me. No, no, no. And I didn't like that. I studied philosophy, and ethics is a big part of my master's in practical philosophy. I've always done what I believe was right and wanted it in an equitative way and equitable for everyone, so that it's not just me taking advantage of someone in my network knowing someone. I haven't gone down that path. It was more, this is me, and I'm putting myself out there, and I'm ready to go for what's next. So it's a combination of both, the luck that you have in life and the effort you put in, because There are other colleagues or friends of mine who went to school, the same bilingual school that I went to, international school, and that really didn't had it that easy in life, or they didn't really perform as well because they were not so interested in learning and so on. And what success looks for them, it's very different to what it looks for me as well. So this is a very subjective answer. To me, success is where I'm at, where I'm coming to job day after day with a big smile, with energy to contribute, feeling that I belong, feeling that I'm contributing to others so that they belong at EG, however they look, whoever they believe in, whatever sexual orientation, gender identity, however they want to express themselves, you're good here. And we love it that way. To me, and not just with pride, this goes to say with our ability inclusion movement, if you have any form of disability, or if you're Black, if you're Latinx, if you are a woman, I just love empowering others and giving them space to be themselves, because that's the only way forward. To me, that is success. And I can do that here at Expedia Group. I don't need millions and billions to be happy or to be satisfied with what I'm doing, but I do want to see impact in everything I do and measure that impact so that it speaks to our business. With that said, both luck and determination to do something, contribute, but luck weighs in a bit more. So maybe it's a 60-40. And that's the complete answer. I know it took long, sorry. I just wanted to give the whole perspective.
So your answer to kind of what percentage you would attribute to luck, and what would you say is merit and effort related?
Right.
So now I just wanted to elaborate more on the question of how has your identity influenced your career and vice versa, because I know for a fact that when we had conversations together, you told me that sometimes you would modify some pieces of yourself.
Yes.
So would you feel comfortable
of
sharing
course. Of course.
this
It hasn't been,
process?
of course, sorry, Marshall. I knew that I had in mind telling more about how luck and determination plays a part in my identity as well, because obviously it's not just my sexual orientation as being gay and cisgender. It's, in other words, being gay has been a challenge in many times throughout my career and at different companies. At Expedia, I don't have a problem speaking about me going with my partner, for example, what you do with your boyfriend this weekend, and I can speak to that without a problem. In other jobs that I've had to suppress that and not speak about my partner or feel awkward when that conversation arose during coffee time. And I don't want that for anyone, because I've been there and it's so uncomfortable. It makes you not focus on your work because you have this part of your mind always trying to hide an essential part of who you are. So I've had that in previous jobs. And even at Expedia, when I was talking to certain partners, you really want to match the style of your partner. And sometimes I've been, trying to pass and not try to be too feminine when I speak so that I might sound more credible or more professional. And, I come to realize, oh, no, that's not the way forward. Why am I doing this? And this is something that we don't do sometimes consciously, but unconsciously we try to pass just to avoid the stigma, the wave, and to avoid all of that unconscious bias that unfortunately exists and is part of life, right? So yes, identity played a crucial role. Also, when I started at EG, my manager was openly gay, and that gave me also inspiration and representation, which is so important. I looked up to my manager. He was speaking about his husband at work, and I was like blown away about it and saying, this is okay and it should be normalized. So representation is huge. And I wish tomorrow I could be that person others look up to, saying, Francisco is speaking about this, it's normalizing it, I can do it as well. That would be my goal, right? And as I grow my career in the future. I hope this answers your question, Marie-Charlotte.
No, yeah, definitely. It was a very interesting and complete interview. And I love that you shared also the hardships and how masking is something that we all use to a certain extent. But when you have to do it like every single day, in your work environment, when you're talking to external partners, when you are inside the company sometimes. Fortunately, here at Expedia, we don't. Like, it's an amazing inclusive company, but yeah, when you interact with maybe external clients and everything, it can be very tiring. So we hope that being yourself and all the people that embrace fully their identity can just put things forward, and that in the future, everybody's going to feel empowered to do so. And we're going to be better off because everybody's going to have the belonging and the power that they are feeling accepted, and they just contribute 100% to the company. So we're going to avoid blind spots. We're going to be better in business. And it's just going to be overall more positive for everyone. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being with me for this half an hour. I really enjoyed the conversation. Is there anything that you want to say before we say goodbye?
I want to say thank you, Marie-Charlotte, for putting this program together and for giving space for all sorts of individuals at EG to speak up and answer our stories. And I think that is very powerful. So thank you, Marie-Charlotte, for your leadership. And I also want to send a final message on the following. What before I was ashamed of, or I was trying to mask, as you were saying, is now my superpower, is now something that I look for when I'm in front of a business challenge, my authenticity. Look for your authenticity. Don't shame away. Don't be afraid of showing up as who you are, and bring it and cherish it. And also, when you see others bringing that authenticity to work, celebrate it. Don't make it less, make it more, and make it a norm, because that's the true culture we want to build at EG. And I think this is important, regardless where you work. Be yourself and don't be afraid to bring that, because that's how you're going to perform your best, but that's how we are going to also enjoy that real diversity at EG. So instead of hiding yourself, open yourself to the world, because that's how, when you will start enjoying so much more in life and at work. So yeah, that's my final message. And thank you again, Marie-Charlotte, for the opportunity and the honor to be here with you today.
No, you're welcome. And we're closing with this powerful message. And we know it's difficult. We know all the environment is not as accepting in terms of a company. We are lucky that we can do that at EG. And so we just want to tell the message, like outside, that it's possible. There are some companies where you can be yourself, and we just want to invite you to have like courage and perseverance and just keep searching for it, because there is a space for you and you are valued and you are important. So thank you for listening, and see you at the next episode.